Hello, I'm Joanne Gallagher, your Think.Future podcast host. Today we are joined by two inspiring people, Professor Leonie Barner of Queensland University and Dr. Kavita Gonsalves of Populous, who are excited to tell us about their collaboration on a circular design showcase in Australian architecture. Join us in a minute to hear why this project is leading edge in circular design. This podcast is brought to you by Arcons, a global leader pioneering solutions and services to the AEC and manufacturing industries who support digital transformation for the built environment and smart manufacturing. Visit arcons.net to learn more about how Arcons are helping organizations design, build, and solve through digitalization. From Arcons to you, welcome to our Think Future podcast series. Each week we'll share conversations with industry leaders from around the world to find out how they're thinking future. Subscribe to Arcons Think Future for access to more episodes, interviews, and profiles. Professor Leonie Barner is a Principal Research Fellow and the inaugural Director of the Centre for a Waste-Free World at the Queensland University of Technology in Brisbane, Australia. She received her PhD in Physical Chemistry in 1998 in Germany. Besides her research interest in polymer and material science, as well as environmental science, she leads transdisciplinary research projects focusing on sustainability and circular economy. Dr. Kavita Gonsalves is the Associate Principal and Sustainability Design Lead at Populous. Kavita is an architect, researcher, and strategist who works towards crafting sustainable futures at the intersection of people and place. At Populous, APAC, Kavita leads sustainable initiatives which impact projects, operations, and people. Welcome to the program, Leonie and Kavita.
Thanks for having us, Joanne.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Joanne, for having us. Very excited to be having this conversation.
It's brilliant to have you both here. Leonie, please tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how you came to be in collaboration with Kavita. What's your background?
Yeah, so my background is that I have studied chemistry and also a little bit of environmental science, which was a very new subject when I attended university back in Germany. And after my studies, I also did a PhD and got awarded a PhD in physical chemistry. But then I mainly worked in the area of polymer chemistry and material science. But still, I was always interested in the environment and also in sustainability. And therefore, during the recent years, my focus shifted more towards sustainable development and circular economy. And in this area, I'm using tools like life cycle assessment and systems thinking. And I also very, very much enjoy working with other disciplines and on transdisciplinary projects, which was kind of a prerequisite for leading a research center, which was called Center for a Waste-Free World here at QUT. So I was the research director of the center that focused very much on sustainable development and circular economy. And we are covering projects like plastics and textiles, health, waste management, recycling, also stewardship programs. We did a work about right to repair. And we also are in the area of developing laws for circular economy and environment. And very important is also behavior change. Yeah, and that's how I actually also came to the CRC Building 4.0.
That's very exciting. I can see the whole connection with the sustainable development, and I took that pathway too. And I went into coaching as well, so I'm interested in psychology, positive psychology, and so on.
Yeah, I find behavior change is the most difficult topic to address.
Yeah,
in the whole sustainability area.
Okay. And Kavita, tell us about your background with your company and how your path and how you intersect with Leonie and how that happened.
Sure, happy to. So I'm an architect by training. I finished architecture school way back in 2000, 2005 was kind of the period. And I emerged out of that quite interested in sustainable architecture, though I think at the time I did not have a lot of understanding around what that meant. And I was also quite inspired by the work of Laurie Baker, who is a British-born Indian architect who worked a lot with local communities' use of local materials. And to me, he represented a lot of the work around sustainable design. But I think at that time, I did not have the articulation of what that meant. And so I went on to do a master's of architecture tied to energy and environmental studies, and also a small little, I wouldn't call it a diploma, it was minor studies at Aalto University, which was called Creative Sustainability. And that introduced me to also working in transdisciplinary ways, looking at projects, architecture, design in transdisciplinary ways, working with economists, engineers who understand what does the word sustainability mean within these different fields. And from then I did a lot of work around sustainable consulting in architecture, design, urban design. I then went on to do a lot of commercial research with Gensler, which I think was quite the turning point for me to looking at research to design methodologies and how you bring all these various stakeholders to actually create change through design, and how that becomes a flow-on cycle within the life cycle of a building. I then followed that up with a PhD because clearly master's just wasn't enough. And I looked at the use of technology towards social sustainability and how we can bring meaning to place. And I did that out of Queensland University of Technology, QUT, effectively. And then once I completed that, that brought me into my role of being the sustainable design lead for Asia Pacific within Populous, where we do a lot of work with stadiums and entertainment venues, sports infrastructure, entertainment, but everything with the complete goal and vision of bringing people together in experience. Yeah. And I came to collaborate with Leonie because we joined the Building 4.0 CRC number 48 project, which is the circular economy project. And that's how Leonie and I met, and we've been collaborating ever since on the project. Yeah. There's a whole range of stakeholders. I'm not the only one, but yeah.
Oh, that's very good. So, Kavita, I just wanted to say congratulations. I believe you just finished your PhD within the last year, was it?
Yeah, I finished it early last year. Was awarded the degree mid-August 2023.
And how long have you known Leonie?
I would say since June, July last year, 2023. Correct me if I'm wrong, Leonie, but that's kind of, I feel we've known each other for a very long while. That's what it feels like.
That's good. So Leonie, the research project that you're working with Kavita on, what was the main research question?
The main research question is actually to develop a roadmap for the building sector to become circular. So which different steps and aspects are needed so that we can really establish a circular economy for the building sector?
Sounds like a very valuable piece of research.
Yes, I completely agree, but it's also a very, demanding task. So we decided that we would actually need a lot of help to develop a roadmap for the building sector. So we are actually conducting or have conducted co-design workshops with our industry partners, but also people who are not directly involved in this project, but are interested in the building sector and in circular economy. Or there were also people for whom the concept of circular economy was completely new. So we had, I believe, 10 co-design workshops. And then we also are currently performing interviews with stakeholders to learn about their challenges and needs. And then I did some site visits to kind of see circular economy in motion. And then we also have got case studies, and one case study is a case study from Populous, the company Kavita is working for.
Before we get into the details of that, what were the key objectives of the roadmap?
There are a couple of key objectives. One of the first question is, how far are we in the journey to circular economy in Australia and also in the building sector? And then also what needs to be done to become more circular? And of course, there are different aspects like legal aspects, organizational aspects, but also behavior change and economic aspects. And then we also need to identify tools that can be used to transform the building sector into a circular economy sector.
Kavita, maybe you could tell us why Populous is particularly interested in circular economy.
Yeah, so Populous, if you look at the kind of work that Populous does, it is effectively, in a nutshell, like mentioned before, sports infrastructure, entertainment venues, stadium. But a lot of the work is actually sitting in a subset of social infrastructure, civic infrastructure, public buildings. And so these buildings have a lot of scale compared to perhaps other building typologies. And also this building typology is so specific and different that this would be another point, which is it makes it really difficult to set metrics for it. But I think a key point over here with this building typology is that it offers a lot of flexibility, adaptability, and modularity, which I think sits quite well with, the themes of circular economy, because if we are going to be really practicing, the tenets of circular economy, we need to think about how materials are procured, how systems are designed for them. And when I say systems, it's like building systems, your MEP, etc. And so how those systems are actually designed with those materials in mind, and then how, when they reach perhaps their end of life with utility, how they're actually deconstructed. So with our buildings, there's a large amount of potential and opportunity because they present a scale, and they also present opportunity for public good because these buildings can be returned back to the public in a different kind of design, different form, bearing in mind what's possible with these materials at that time, at that particular life stage, so to speak. So I guess that sort of sums up why we're quite interested in circular economy, because we are beginning to see, or we always saw our buildings as a kit of parts that had potential to leave a sort of legacy for future generations. And what that legacy is what we're trying to define right now. Yeah, and we hope to continue this circular economy project, just not within this collaboration, but we're hoping to see that this collaboration grows and begins to have impact within our work as well.
And the project that you're working with Leonie, is that, what do you call that? Is that 4.0? Is that a particular stadium?
I think it's the project is Building 4.0 CRC. I would say that's the mothership. I think what's exciting about Building 4.0 CRC is the kind of innovation and thinking that's bringing together institutions such as QUT, University of Melbourne, and then a lot of industry partners like your Landlease, BlueScope, Populous, and other kinds of stakeholders within this, bringing them together to really answer some big questions around the housing crisis within Australia right now, but also what is the environmental impact of it. And I think circular economy is a nice little thread that's connecting all these different projects within the CRC. Yeah.
The actual building, though, is it the CommBank Stadium building we're talking about? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So within within this particular project, what we propose as a collaboration is to actually look at one of our projects, which is, this project has so many names. It's known as Western Sydney Stadium, CommBank, Bank West. So it changes names, but I think currently it's known as CommBank Stadium. And this is a 30,000 seater stadium that's sitting out in Parramatta. So, yeah.
All right.
And that's what we brought to the table, because what is special about this particular project is that it is completely designed, well, the steel is completely designed for deconstruction. And I'm happy to delve into the details as we move along.
Leonie, would you like to explore the research question then in terms of that, the CommBank or stadium?
Yeah, the CommBank Stadium is a case study for our project, and the official title of the project is Scoping Study for Building the Future Circular Economy. And it's a so-called shared interest project. And the CommBank Stadium was selected from Populous as a case study. And I have to say that it's a really great case study because it just addresses so many aspects of circular economy. And we had some interesting findings. So we started with interviews of stakeholders who were participating on the design and the build of the stadium. So it's a while ago, but still, when we interviewed, so the build and the design happened a while ago, but when we interviewed the people who were involved in the build and the design, you could still feel how enthusiastic everybody was about this project, and how they all really enjoyed working on the project. And I think one reason why they all enjoyed it was because it was extremely collaborative, which apparently, at least that's what I learned, is not what normally happens in big builds. So there's kind of the design phase, and the designers work on the designing the stadium, but they necessarily don't work so much with the builders. But in this case, it was different. Everybody who had an input into this project was brought into the project at the beginning. And that also made this project such a success. So it was built on time, and I think within the budget, which I had to learn is unusual as well for large infrastructure builds. Yeah, so that was one of, that is actually a very important takeaway for circular economies. Circular economy will only work if we collaborate. If every stakeholder is collaborating. Otherwise, we won't be able to really establish circular economy in a sector.
Well, it seems to me from observation, from talking to other people around projects that work and projects that don't work, is that when you collaborate early and you bring people in and say, I have a vision, I'd like to hear what you think, so we can co-create the vision together. And then everyone buys in and they go, oh, that's part of my vision too, so let's go. And then everyone gets excited. But if you come into a project later in the game and you're told what to do and you've got to accept someone else's views, it doesn't work as well. So do you think that there was an element of that here where people were invited?
So nobody has all the knowledge that is needed to build a stadium like this. And bringing in all stakeholders early gives all the stakeholders a spot on the table. And if the designer comes with a design, and then let's say the plumber can say, oh, but that doesn't work, I can't do that. It's a nice design, but I can't do that. Then both parties have got the chance to change the design, and it will save time and costs. So that's why I believe collaboration is so important. Kind of fixing design challenges early.
Well, that's what I meant. So the plumber has a vision and the architect has a vision, and they need to work it out at the start. Like, this is what that's what I mean. I'm just using very broad language because I
would say knowledge. I would say knowledge
and skill and skills.
I would say knowledge, skills, and experience.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's exciting. And what else was there that was maybe different? Was there a bit of pressure around the budget? Was there anything else that sort of put the right magic or ingredients together? Were there anything else that made it successful?
I think, it was so obvious when we interviewed the stakeholders that they were all of them were really buying into this project, and they really wanted to make this project work. And they brought all of their knowledge, and they were open for discussions, open for new ideas. And yeah, that led to this project to be really successful. And it was also what I found very so they came up with really great solutions. So for example, I asked them, because there's also social sustainability, so I asked them if they actually also asked the population of Parramatta, or if the people who will use the stadium, if they were also part of the project, and they said no, not directly, because of time constraints. They couldn't invite them, but they actually they did surveys, and based on these surveys, they knew what the people living in Parramatta really wanted, and they included these wishes in the design as well.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Here's a little bit more about Archons. Archons has a mission to advance the efficiency, quality and profitability of project outcomes for its customers by providing best-in-class technology and services. If you're looking for a digitalization and sustainability-focused partner to help you achieve your goals, join the thousands of AEC and manufacturing customers globally who have turned to Archons to start their journey toward a better built environment and smarter manufacturing. With more than 50 locations around the world, Archons can connect you to the right technologies and expertise so you can improve your competitive position and increase profitability. Archons has an industry expert to help you navigate the best pathway forward wherever you are on your digitalization and sustainability journey. Visit archons.net to find out more. And now back to our conversation. And Kavita, around the leadership part, how was that set up that made it so successful that they thought to engage in the right way, maybe at the right time, to define who the stakeholders, the interested parties would be, not just the strategic stakeholders, but the whole interest parties? It's different, isn't it? So how was that done?
Yeah, I can give some insight into that. So I think one thing we need to remember, and this is what Leonie alluded to, is that the design and build process in Australia is slightly different and perhaps to what I've seen in the rest of the world. So like Leonie said, there's first the design phase, and then there's novation where the contractor then comes on board and takes over the design. And so sometimes what happens is that there is no collaboration between the designer and the contractor and other stakeholders. The design is just sort of handed over. So sometimes we don't even know whether the design has actually been constructed to what was imagined. So I think what was really different with this particular project was Lendlease's vision, that they had eyes on the market, that there was a stadium coming on board. They immediately pulled experts in the field, like your Populous for stadium design, and then Oricon for engineering. We also had Aspect Studio on board for landscape and planning. And then we had even material suppliers like BlueScope and fabricators on board right from the beginning. So they brought them on board, and they already, I think 6 months before the bid for it went live, before the bid went live, Landlease had already started thinking about what it means to deliver this project successfully. And for them, it was a lot around designing under budget, and they really wanted to also, speaking to social sustainability and economic sustainability, they wanted to make sure that the materials came from within Australia, which was why BlueScope was on board. And they also wanted to infuse, cash into the economy. So by delivering economic benefit through job creation, for example, and that's why we had fabricators as well on board within Australia, within Parramatta, or within the vicinity of Sydney on board as well. And those decisions also had flow-on effect with, for example, it was literally like going to the, I would say IKEA over here, IKEA store, picking what's on board and bringing that to actually design the house, as opposed to let's design the house and then figure out how everything fits in. So this was a different way of thinking. So they saw what was on the shelf with BlueScope. They used those units, and that's how they began to design with them, which I think is what designing of the future is going to be, because very soon materials are going to be in our buildings, all the materials that we can, and our buildings are going to be the material banks. So the way we design in the future is that we see what exists and use that to actually design, which is kind of going back to the tenets of circular economy. But at that time, there wasn't this language of circular economy, and I don't think they were even thinking in terms of deconstruction. It was more about speed and bringing down the cost of labor. So that's why they went with bolted sections in the building, because they wanted to reduce costs associated or labor associated with welding sections. And also the site was a bit tricky, so they went for bolting because it'd be easier to bring materials to site and actually construct it. So there's that component. One more thing I did want to add also about this project is that there was a previous stadium on site, which was known as the Parramatta Stadium. So there was a previous stadium on site. And what they also did was, when they demolished the stadium, they actually used the concrete from it. They crushed it and actually used it to infill the new stadium. And also seats from the old stadium were taken elsewhere to serve in other venues, if I'm correct. And materials as well were returned back into the supply chain, so to speak. So the story of this stadium does not actually just start with the stadium. It actually starts with what existed before and how that was used and reused within this stadium, and how it actually just wasn't reused on site, but also externally. Yeah. So I think what was driving it was the vision, so to speak, the vision by Landlease to bring down costs, deliver great design, and also do things quickly, because they had a 2-year timeline to deliver the stadium. And the second one was collaboration, high collaboration between team members. They were there from day one. Everyone, the minute Landlease, for example, knew there was something that they had to do about cost, they immediately told the design team, and they were able to work around challenges with that and, deliver this, and then deliver the stadium, so to speak. So yeah, I think right now I can think of two things. It was vision and collaboration, which is atypical in this landscape.
So many nuggets there. Thanks for breaking it down so it's nice and clear. Leonie, I wanted to ask you, you had visited the stadium, is that right?
That's correct.
Tell us what you thought when you actually went there and saw it with your own eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it was really great. So I got a private tour organized by the Venues New South Wales, who are running the stadium. So I got a private tour really from the bottom of the stadium up to the top. So I was in areas of the stadium that people normally can't access, and it was really great. And we talked. So they, of course, were not involved in the build. Of the stadium. They are only involved in the use phase of the stadium. But it was very interesting to see that also during the use stage, they are really sustainable. So they are always looking for possibilities to run the stadium in an even more sustainable fashion. So they really look into energy use, water use, also the environmental impact of the stadium. So there's a park nearby, and the park has got a big bat colony, like flying foxes colony. So they monitor if the stadium is impacting the this flying fox colony in a adverse way, but apparently not. But they are monitoring it. It was also interesting. We kind of coined the term that there needs to be design for maintenance as well. Because they pointed out that luckily the stadium is really designed in a way that makes it easy for them to maintain the stadium. So, for example, how the lights are placed on the stadium, on the rim of the on the rim of the roof. Yes, yeah. It's easy for them to access them. Things like that. Everything is it's a multi-functional stadium. So it's not just rugby or football. It's also kind of soccer and also concerts. And for example, soccer, they want to have some areas without seats. So they actually need to take out the seats for a soccer game, and then they need to put them back in for other games. And everything is bolted, so that it's actually easy for them to convert the stadium depending on what it is used for at the day. And I was surprised. I think they told me it takes them 2.5 hours to remove the seats or put them back in, which I think it's really quick. So you can see that there's a lot of thought going into how to run the stadium. They also have got a light management system. So I actually had to walk through dark corridors in the main building because they know exactly when these corridors will be in use. And if they are not in use, the lights are turned off to reduce energy and cost. They have got, of course, they harvest rainwater. They've got big rainwater tanks that they use for the turf and partly also for the toilets. So they look into how to reduce the energy for air conditioning in the rooms they have got in the main building. So it's and they also told me that sometimes they refurbish parts of the stadium, but they always, at least until now, they were always able to use the parts that they took out of the stadium in another stadium. So they have got rural stadiums across Australia or across New South Wales, and then they these items are going to be used in rural stadiums. So really, this concept of not producing waste was very obvious.
Very good. This sounds so inspiring. Would you do anything different?
So this roadmap project is still ongoing. So we are not finished with the project yet. We are still interviewing people, and just this week I actually visited another site, which was very interesting. So another case study for this project. We have not fully designed our roadmap. What would I do differently? I think we underestimated a little bit how much time it takes. So this was a 12-month project, but if you want to talk to a lot of people, get a lot of different views, and if you try to cover every aspect, 12 months are actually not a lot of time. I mean, luckily, we got an extension by 2 months. But even that, I mean, eventually we will have to say, okay, we need to stop somewhere. Yeah, we always could dig deeper, but yeah, we need to develop this framework for the roadmap, and then yeah, I guess it's up to other projects to come up with the nitty gritty. Yeah, but I mean, like underestimating how much time it actually. And what I find challenging is giving numbers, like making it qualitatively it's okay, but quantitatively, yeah. In the beginning, someone from industry asked me, "Oh, he would like to know how much it will cost to establish circular economy." I mean, to be honest, I think it's the wrong question. I think the question should be, how much will it cost us if we do not establish circular economy? And that will be billions, I would say. Yeah, but I mean, giving hard numbers to something like circular economy is impossible, I would say.
Well, it's very complex, and there's inner loops and outer loops. It's a lot there, and it's an ongoing process. It's never really complete, so it's like, how long is a piece of string? But as you said, the cost of not doing it is going to be far greater, because we do have limited resources, and we need to think about reusing them and keeping things in service.
Yeah, and it's not just about, I mean, I know a lot of people think it's just materials and keeping materials in circulation, but it's not. It's also about decarbonization and regenerating nature, and reducing our impact on the environment and nature, and really helping nature to bounce back from the destruction we already have inflicted on nature.
Also, there's all the design and the innovation and the knowledge and the time that went into these things, like a propeller for an airplane. You don't just bring it back to base again. You use it again. And like you said, you use the seats in another stadium. It doesn't go into landfill. It's, kept in service in some way. So when you think future, Leonie, about other projects or circular economy in this context, what excites you the most?
I mean, to see companies adapting circular economy principles and kind of, I mean, there are companies who have started the journey, but there are also companies, even within this project, who came to us and said, we really want to know. I mean, we know that circular economy is important, but we don't know how to do it, how to start it. Yeah, so we will also give some advice on how to start your circular economy journal, and there are actually quite a lot of tools out there that companies can use to start their journey in circular economy. But again, it will be very, very important for them to collaborate. No company can do it on its own. So they all will have to collaborate with each other to really create a circular economy.
And you're excited about that part?
Yes.
Great.
I am.
Kavita, when it comes to your take on this and the things you've learned from design, what excites you the most when you think future?
Yeah, I think with this project, it's given, for example, a lot of food for thought around what circular economy is. And I also kind of don't like the term circular economy because it alludes to economic value, within circularity of materials. And that's something that we've spoken ample about. I think what we don't do enough to talk about is preserving biodiversity, nature, and also what it means to work with nature. And also I think we don't talk enough about pollution and the impacts of that, not just on us, but other kinds of beings. So I think there's something to be said about the term circular economy and what that emerges into as well. And we also need to remember, and that's something that we're seeing in this research, because just yesterday, I think a tool came out that Building 4.0 CRC put out, which is like an excellent tool showing the different kinds of stakeholders and what different stakeholders can do to actually champion circularity. I think, to me, I would sum it up in three things. It would be that we need policy, like Western Sydney Stadium or CommBank Stadium is typically a one-off in this landscape, right? It happened because there was a vision by the builder, by Lendlease. Lendlease had this amazing vision, and that's why this project happened. And today we can talk about it as a case study. But for this to become a norm, it's going to really require policy, and then it's going to require development of knowledge and skills and the technical know-how, what it means to not just build, but manufacture and also deconstruct. So preparing products to actually be deconstructed and having technical know-how of how to work with this. And the third one is really, I think we've been talking about it, is actually the will to change. The mindset, perception. There's a lot of perception challenges around circularity. There's also challenges around who's going to actually take the risk, right, of reusing these materials and what challenges it presents. And what kind of policy do we actually need to actually support industry change towards that? So there is that component to it, actually, the will to change and what it's going to take. And that reusing something, recycling is great, but I think there's an element of energy that goes into recycling something. So what about reusing? And can we build behavior change towards reuse and making reuse cool, right? Rather than waiting for an apocalypse to actually show us that reuse is the only option that we have. So the sooner we can get into that. So I think what excites me about all of this is that at the end of the day, that we would preserve and protect nature and preserve our ecosystems, because ultimately it means that it's a small step, not just towards survival, but actually thriving, that we're building a new informed society that's interested in thriving. So yeah, those are kind of the hopes for the future, I guess, in a very long-winded way.
I love it, because I have a vision of thriving as well, and it includes biodiversity and everything that lives on the planet to thrive, that our rivers and our seas and our air and our fauna and animals are living in harmony and with us.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I think we need to talk about the more than human, like beyond the human, and see us. I think that comes from a lot of, I wouldn't say it's something I've learned. So it's a lot of First Nations thinking that we should be bringing into this to actually help us. What does it mean to thrive, and how do we thrive in relationship to nature, animals, flora, fauna, land, country? So all of those things.
And when we are nurturing all of that the way we think.
Seeing ourselves as caretakers and custodians. I really like that word, custodians. And then there's the bit that we hand over, right? We hand over to the future, who's going to be our next of kin, our future kin, so to speak. So I think that's, at least that's where my mind is always.
I love it. So thank you both for being on the program. This podcast was brought to you by Arcons. Arcons is leading the digital transformation of the AEC and manufacturing industries by providing best-in-class technology solutions from world-leading partners and their own in-house development software from the Arcons BeSmart portfolio for building, infrastructure and manufacturing. Arcons is a company that cares about creating and building a better world. Together, we are working with industry and environmental experts, providing forums and platforms through our Arcons Think community to create conversations that matter to our future generations. We invite you to join in the conversation and participate in our Think community. Like and subscribe to Think.Future to stay up to date with the latest innovations and conversations as we advance the digital journey for the AEC and manufacturing around the world. You can download our podcasts at arcons.net or from your favorite podcast platform.